Hello everyone, I'm TFC328 here, and it's time to look at the Bionicle reboot's biggest set of 2015, Mask Maker vs. Skull Grinder, which I'll refer to as Akimu vs. Kulta for brevity's sake. This set is debatably the best of 2015, but it's unquestionably the most important, as it contains the year's major antagonist, Kulta the Skull Grinder, the big good guy of the series, Akimu the Mask Maker, and the all-too-important Mask of Creation, which has been featured on the packaging of literally every single set released this year. That's a lot of build-up. There's a lot you get with this set, so let's start with the bulk of the set, Kulta the Skull Grinder. Kulta is the tallest of the Skull villains, but in actuality he's only as tall as Tahu, putting him at about 8.5 inches. I really like this, as this gives Kulta the look of a great parallel rival character like Jetstream Sam or Sonic's myriad rivals. However, the animations want us to think he's a titan about as tall as the General Grievous build. But since he put the mask on the second he showed up on screen, I suppose that's more the Mask of Creation buffing his size, if anything. Height aside, your mileage may vary on how well constructed he is. He's got a fair ton of unsightly gaps and a rather plain construction, down to sharing his leg build with Skullbasher. I do wish that those femur bone pieces came in a larger size, even if just for this guy, to make him a slightly taller and thus much more imposing threat. But I think for what he is, he's at least proportioned well, especially with his bulked-out shoulders. He retains the same gear function that's been on all the sets this year, say the Protectors, Lost, Basher, and Scorpio. I don't think it was particularly needed with this guy, given he's not opening the line as an established character like Tahu was, but I suppose you need a year-wide gimmick, and it works well for what it is. He also retains the mask-flinging gimmick, but now Kulta wears a skull-like mask that certainly calls to mind the Terminator. Well, this is the same piece found on Skull Warriors, except in silver instead of gunmetal/pearl dark gray. Its look is enhanced with these devil horns that, while not very flowing with the color scheme of gunmetal, trans orange, and silver, help Kulta find a distinct visual identity and an intimidating presence. Actually, this color scheme somewhat reminds me of Dreamwave's version of the Fallen, Raging Furnace and all. Surprised no one has done that yet. Kulta is given two weapons. First, a standard hook blade that can steal any given character's mask given the chance. This thing looks wicked sharp, like getting hit by this thing looks painful, as if it were a vaguely blade-like shard of shrapnel. However, he doesn't wield it in any versions of the story proper. He has in the animations, but there it's just decor. For me, it's unneeded clutter, so I'll just give it to Slashurr. Have some four-bladed chaos, why not? His primary weapon is the Mask Stealer's Staff. It's tall, it's imposing, and best of all, it lives up to its title, taking masks with ease. At least the Gen 2 masks. They don't stay in there, but a mask can be fit in there and it stays quite nicely for display. That is, if Kulta could handle the weight. His build calls for 4 friction gears, 2 on each arm, and the staff is just large enough to make these gears not very effective at holding it upright, making it droop. Thankfully, it just takes 2 more to make the staff look badass on display and hold for play. This is so simple a fix that I don't understand why LEGO didn't include it. It's not like these 4 pieces would have bumped the price up to $31 or anything. After all, not every Bionicle fan bought that Cloud Cuckoo Land playset from the LEGO movie. While Kulta may not appeal to everyone, and he's not without problems in his build, I love him. He makes a great second-in-command bad guy that's strong enough to hold his own against the Toa and features a unique weapon that, while heavy, carries its own sense of menace that works. I would be fine buying him separate, but he thankfully happens to come with 2 other portions that make him even more worth it. Akimu the Mask Maker is our sort of Mata Nui of the story, so it's quite a relief to have a set of him so soon after the line started. It took us 9 years to get a physical representation of the Great Spirit, but that's beside the point. Unlike Mata Nui, Akimu is built like a protector, down to having his legs identical in construction to Narmoto's. He carries a brilliant color combination of trans blue, gold, and tips of silver. Seriously, this palette choice is gorgeous, and gives Akimu a much greater visual appearance as a well-respected leader that, even if you were stronger than him, you'd gladly follow him because he looks like a guy that trusts his allies, but isn't afraid to fight alongside them. Helping that are these awesome shoulder pads previously used on Shima's Ultra builds, particularly the ones we Americans never got. Since no one else uses them in this line, it gives him a unique silhouette and a regal form. Unlike the other protectors, he's built with a gearbox, specifically built to swing his right arm for his weapon. However, it's reinforced with 3 friction gears, which makes the swinging motion too stiff, and he can live without one of them. Thank God his box mate is in desperate need of those then, huh? His mask is the same as all the other protectors, swept back, yet neutral in form is either friendly or antagonistic depending on the situation. I don't like how it leaves the lower jaw exposed, but I suppose it's intentionally so to lend the toe a much greater importance. Here, the mask is the same glorious gold and blue as the rest of his body. It can be knocked off too. Be wary when posing the head, however, as it can clash with the knob on the left, possibly warping it. That, and he can't look up very far. He wields a spinning buzzsaw shield, nicely accented with this gold part that, interestingly, debuted in LEGO's Princess line. That's not a detriment at all, but Akimu works with it so well that you wouldn't be able to tell if you didn't know already. He also wields a signature mask-making hammer, which also doubles as a stud shooter that came with the other protectors. On one hand, why would you add bullets to your hammer? On the other hand, why wouldn't you add bullets to your hammer? It's the kind of absurd at face, awesome and full idea that really appeals to me. The studs blend in with the hammer well, and they can be fired by rotating the back of the hammer. While the studs can be lost easily, they give you 7 replacement shots. I like to double load and store the other one on their person. It makes it easier to keep track of them for me. Akimu is a truly magnificent figure that, if sold separately, would more than justify his $10 price tag. He's very well built, looks fantastic, and serves as a great big leader guy that can hold his own despite his size, while packing some neat play features. He's a fantastic counterpoint to Kulta, making their 2-pack nature all the better. However, this isn't even the end of the set.
Behold, the mask of creation!
It comes with its own display stand that gives the impression of a floating mystical object waiting to be held by a worthy wielder. Do yourself a favor if you plan on displaying the mask like this, and use that spare pin to tighten its grip, as by default it flops towards the ground. The mask itself is a thing of beauty. Cast in gold plastic, this piece is very well designed, featuring a spiked visage that calls to mind a crown worn by a mighty king. It's intricately sculpted too, with all these mystical runes, possibly even a language that gives this mask a much greater significance than a typical mask of fire, even more than the golden masks of power. On Akimu, he gives him an even greater presence as a benevolent king, loved by his peers, proud of his status, and respectful of those he lords over, even his enemies. Due to its intricate design, however, it does seem a bit off when worn by him, despite it being his mask. I suppose the trans blue of the protector mask spoiled me. Worn by Kulta, it suddenly twists into a macabre image of a corrupt tyrant, driven by power, dominance, and bloodshed, ruling with an iron fist as he stomps on those weaker than him. Leaving the horns on him adds to the darker, malformed nature of its current state, like the second part of an epic multi-phase video game boss battle, which ironically makes it suit him better than its intended wearer. It also looks great in the Mask Stealer staff. If anything, people intend to grab this set just for this one epic piece. And rightfully so. Akimu vs. Kulta is a great set. It features 2 polar opposite characters that have great synergy together, one that stands tall as an imposing rival villain with a creative weapon that fits right into the Bionicle universe, and the other pulling off a royal yet battle-ready look despite his height with his lovely color scheme and great weapons. It also features one of Bionicle's best masks that holds importance either held or worn by either figure, and works fine on its own with its neat display base. For $30, I feel you're getting your money's worth. Heck, I got over 25. Thank you, Walmart clearance. I'm TFC328, and at the very least this is a much more logical 2-pack than Poe Dameron and a riot control stormtrooper. To be fair, that movie was absolutely wonderful. Oh, and I got a lot more money for Christmas than I was expecting, so that, combined with a PSN flash sale, means that I actually get to try out Transformers Devastation while having enough money to get Fire Emblem Fates when it comes out in February. Thank you, Sony.